Jaunty, indeed.
Good day, chaps and chapettes, and welcome to a jaunty discussion of video games and the like. We'll return for another invigorating discussion of how games have changed in recent years, and this time our topic of discussion shall be developer saturation. As always, we shall begin by defining our topic within the context of our show. Then we'll list some perpetrators of this act, and finally we'll establish some good and bad examples of the results of this phenomenon. We do hope you enjoy our jaunty discussion as it unfolds.
Yes, it's finally here, my beautiful people. The topic we have been teasing for several weeks. I don't remember where we're starting. Oh, that's right. We're supposed to explain what exactly we mean by developer saturation. I don't know if I've done a good enough job of explaining it, so I want to hear you describe it first.
Well, to me, developer saturation is when one developer just continuously out the same game year after year. And yes, I apologize for breaking the rule, but that's basically what it is. It's like, Infinity Ward, Ubisoft, I could probably name some others if I wanted to. The same game year after year, and you know what? If you're just gonna continuously do that passive-aggressive stuff, please, continue.
I mean, I do that a lot behind the scenes, guys. Yes, so we have a few developers who just continuously create the same type of game with very little variation. And of course, as we mentioned in both of our previous episodes, Ubisoft does this all the time. Like, every single Ubisoft game these days
the same thing
is the same sandbox game. You have Assassin's Creed, which has just become liberate the districts, do the same 4 missions until you're done, and then maybe go through the story, maybe just leave it because it's probably not very good. Yeah. And then you have Far Cry, where you liberate the districts, do the same 4-ish missions until you get bored, and maybe do the story, but it's not really necessary because it's probably not that good. Hey, that sounds familiar. But there's more examples, because Ubisoft also made The Division, which has, it has, 3 mission goals. It only has 1 mission, shoot the dudes. Because it's very hard to do mission variation with a shooter unless you, try.
And honestly, who wants to try to do mission variation with a shooter?
Yeah, who wants to try to make an actually good game? That takes a lot of effort, and then we can't produce our game within 1 year of the previous one.
That sounds familiar to a certain series that many love to defend.
A lot of people also like to attack it, so that's always interesting.
And then there's people like us.
I assume we're talking about Fish of Duty.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Call it fish because it's cod.
Yes.
Hold on. That was actually really impressive.
Yes, that was.
So I have a chopstick in my hand for no apparent reason, and there's a metal bin, I want to say 3 feet away, and I just threw the chopstick, bounced it off, and it hit the tongue.
And as I was saying...
I don't think it can.
I mean, yeah. As I was saying, people defend it, people attack it, and then there's people like us who just sit on the side with popcorn going, oh, let's just watch the fireworks happen.
Oh, no, I love to hate Call of Duty because I don't hate the game. I don't particularly think it's good, but that's not my cup of tea anyway. See what I did there. But I don't particularly hate the gameplay. What I do hate is what the publisher does with the game. So, we'll get back to this with our episode about pre-order culture, which is coming up at some point in the future.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But Call of Duty, last year from our current point of view, not necessarily for you guys, in case you're watching this the future. In which case, hi. Please let us know if everything has gone and blown up. Anyway, last year, they published Infinite Warfare? Is that the title?
Infinite Warfare, and they remastered 4.
Yes. With Infinite Warfare, you could get the special edition that was an extra $30 to get Modern Warfare Remastered. Modern Warfare came out almost a decade ago, I think. Does that sound right? Like 2008?
Yeah, that does sound about right.
I don't know. I'll probably, flash it up on the screen while editing. Also, Editor Me is probably mad. Sorry, buddy. So, Modern Warfare is a game that has been out for a long time and still has a pretty rabid fan base. So they knew that they could get a large number of people to buy the special edition of Infinite Warfare just to get Modern Warfare Remastered. That in itself is just shitty business practice. What's worse is that after the game had already launched, they added microtransactions to a game that's almost a decade old.
Why? Other than them going, we want all of our fans' money. How do we do it?
Well, see, that's the thing. These days, publishers aren't interested in just making some of the money. They're interested in only making all of the money. So, there's another type of publisher that kind of continuously makes the same type of game, but they don't get as much shit for it. And that's because their fan base will follow them into the next game, but also, they like to take a lot of time in between installments for the most part. And that, of course, is fighting games. Now, I am not part of the fighting game community, mostly because I know that trying to join the fighting game community is like running headfirst into a brick wall, much like playing Dark Souls for the first time. And I do enjoy fighting games now and again. They're interesting to play at parties. They're also interesting as joke Christmas gifts. That's an inside joke.
I still thank you for it. Although
I
really haven't played it that much.
If you know what I mean.
Whatever the hell it is.
In case you aren't familiar with fighting games and are wondering exactly what I'm talking about, Dead or Alive. I wouldn't Google it if I were you.
At least wouldn't Google it at home. Go to your public library, if those still exist.
So, the major fighting game publishers will create the same game in iterations. Like Capcom has their Street Fighter. That's the only one that I know who makes it, but Dead or Alive... Tekken, yeah.
Mortal Kombat?
Well, Mortal Kombat is a little bit different because they've been making them more frequently to get a story going, which... Yeah. Oh, honey. No.
Injustice has a story.
I know it does, but it shouldn't. I mean, story modes in fighting games... I'm gonna misquote... oh, shoot. Is it Carmack? It's one of the Johns from id. Correction here in Rainbow Comic Sans, possibly. Well, if I'm wrong. But one of the Johns from id said that story in a video game is like story in porn. It's expected to be there, but no one's watching for it. Or playing, in this case. And I feel like with some games, that's not true anymore, but with fighting games, it definitely is. Because the fighting game community is all about the online play and the tournaments. So fighting games don't need to have stories, and that's why I think that... Is it NetherRealm? Yeah?
Yes, NetherRealm does.
NetherRealm needs to stop putting stories into their fighting games and just stick with one, and then only bring it out every couple of years.
I mean, the story for Injustice isn't that bad once you look over at the comics. I mean, the comics, before the actual game, do set up a hell of a lot more than the game does itself.
And I will, for certain, say that it's the only good comic tie-in game I've ever played. Unsurprisingly, I have played more than one. Oh, never mind. Just kidding. No, it's not even. I said it was the best comic tie-in game that I've played, but then I remembered that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a comic book. So, yeah. Injustice, get out of my house.
I still haven't played that one. And
I haven't played a lot of it, but I want to buy it now.
I mean, I know they made it in a movie.
They did, and it's a fantastic.
Where Captain America is one of the villains.
Well, yeah.
Which is just
and he skateboards himself to death. It's pretty great. Oh, spoiler. Sorry. Watch the movie. Do it. Also, not sponsored. Although, totally could be. So, for the purposes of discussing examples a little bit later, I do want to bring up two smaller developers that did bring out games quite frequently, but had enough differences between them that their fans didn't get bored or annoyed with them producing games really quickly. And that, of course, is From Software and Scott Cawthon. Hi, this is the editor. Just pointing out that I did sort of imply that people who are returning fans of Call of Duty don't enjoy it, and I realized that that is incorrect. So, yeah. Whose name I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, but hey, you have a lot of consecutive consonants.
I mean, it's not his fault. It's probably one of his ancestors' fault.
Well, yeah. That's true. Unless it isn't.
You do have a point there.
Yeah. Shoot.
From
yes.
Software, weren't they Dark Souls?
Yes. And of course there are now 5 Souls games. Also 3D Dot Game Heroes, which was made by From Software, which I did not know until I started playing it again, and I was like, what? But I wanted to just bring them up now, because we're going to go into examples in a hot second here. Well, we're going to try to think of one more publisher to talk about, because otherwise we're not going to have enough for a show.
I would say Bethesda, but kind of want to say Sucker Punch. Not for the game you think I'm going to say. Sly Cooper.
Yeah. See, I wasn't paying attention when Sly Cooper came out when we were younger. How frequent were they?
I mean, I don't know if they were frequent, but just the first 3 of the series, first and second one, there's a bit of a difference between them. Instead of the one-hit kill BS that they have the life bar and all that.
Well, yeah.
And then the second to third one, there's not that much difference, other than maybe, the occasional...
I feel like that's a topic for us to cover later, and or not at all.
Okay.
That's more of sequels that don't change anything, but I don't think it was necessarily frequent. They only made a few games, and I don't think they were close enough together for it to count here.
Okay.
What we're talking about is developers who make the same game consistently, frequently enough that people get bored with their games. Like, I used to be really big into Assassin's Creed, and in fact, we have 1 through 4, but then I stopped buying them because they were coming out too frequently, and I didn't have the money to buy all of them. And so I missed out on both Unity and Rogue, and then...
And Liberation.
Oh, I always forget that Liberation exists.
Probably because it was originally for the PSP.
Well, yeah.
So, the portable...
Also Chronicles, which came out last year.
Oh, jeez, that's the one I always forget about.
Well, yeah. That's because it's not really an Assassin's Creed
It's not
game.
a
It's
complete...
2D. It's a 2D platformer, or so I've heard. I have not played it, obviously. If you want to send us a free copy...
We'd be very grateful.
If that actually happens, I will be very impressed, because we have not gotten, like, a P.O. box or anything. Yeah.
Assassin's Creed 1 through Black Flag, they're nice.
Well, debatable.
Okay, so...
I always get annoyed, because if you go through them consecutively, it seems like nothing ever changes. But then if you make major leaps, it's like, what happened? And you can attest to this, because you just went from 3 back to 2.
Okay, here's how I went. Syndicate to 3...
Oh yeah, that's right.
To 2.
Syndicate to 3 to 2. And that's, of course, jumping off of a console as well, because Syndicate was for current consoles, right?
No, it was Syndicate 4, 3, 2.
Well, yeah. But still... although, I will say, the only time there that's a gradual step is between 4 and 3, because those are the only 2 directly following each other. In every other case, there's multiple between them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What was the biggest difference, would you say, between... well, let's first go with Syndicate and 4.
Not much, really, other than the godforsaken liberate the districts, which...
Oh, yeah, the liberation of the districts is even worse in Syndicate. It wasn't that bad in 4.
4 really didn't have it.
It absolutely did. You cannot tell me that it didn't. It 100% does.
Okay, if you're talking about unclouding
I'm
the
talking
map...
about the fortresses, yeah.
Okay, then yes.
Those things are tedious AF.
Yes, that is true. And I hate them for it.
Yeah.
From my recollection, they don't have it in Unity. Thank Christ.
I wouldn't know. I have no interest in playing Assassin's Creed.
Don't. Just don't. Don't play it.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, if someone sends us a free copy, then we'll talk about it.
Talk about it.
Hey! Speaking of sending us things and me playing them, we just ordered a new object for my gaming channel that will be arriving before next week. So if you're subscribed over there, be interested in new videos. And if you're subscribed over here and you haven't been to my gaming channel, check that out. Hashtag James Plugs. I think we've been blabbering about developers and stuff long enough. Let's talk about some examples here, which, I mean, I guess we've been doing, which, oops.
Whoops!
Actually, I don't know why I just now said let's talk about examples, because we've been talking about Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm just going to sit in the corner. Ubisoft, last year, finally released a sequel to another one of their Assassin's Creed games, which was Watch _Dogs. And I have heard that they've changed a lot between 1 and 2 of Watch Dogs, simply because they actually put time between it and gave it effort to upgrade it. But if you look at pretty much any other series they have, it's just the same game with minor variations. Like, we have Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 3, which, of course, Far Cry 4 is Far Cry 3, except with slightly less interesting characters, plot, and missions. So if that sounds entertaining, go ahead and pick Far Cry 4 up, but also, what is wrong with you? You could probably get just as much or more enjoyment out of Far Cry 3. Plus, there's enough to do in it that you'll have stuff to play for a while. So yes, Far Cry 4 is redundant and unnecessary. Speaking of things that are redundant and unnecessary, that brings me back to Assassin's Creed Syndicate, because in their efforts to make things
interesting,
in their efforts to make more variations between their consecutive games, they added both the grappling hook / zip line, but wait, they also brought back the driving mechanics. And the driving mechanics, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they haven't been in the past couple, or they haven't been in for some time.
No, I mean, the last time there was anything reminiscent of driving would have been 4 with the ships.
See, and then the last time you had a land vehicle was probably Rev, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, because you had, like, a cart. Anyway.
But then you also had horses in 3, but that doesn't really count, does it?
Kinda. I haven't played 3, so I didn't know that.
Yeah,
so.
there's horses in 3.
Anyway, in their efforts to try to add more variation between their games, they added 2 new mechanics. Well, they added a mechanic and reintroduced a mechanic. And the zipline made driving carriages obsolete within the game that they were brought in. Because why would you ever want to, A, go down near the ground, and B, why would you ever not want to just fly across the air? Like, yes, I understand that it's faster, but since there's a fast travel mechanic, if you're going all the way across the city, you might as well just fast travel.
Yeah.
And if you're only going partially across the city, then there's no point in not using the zipline.
Well, I mean, there are certain missions that require you to use the carriage.
Yeah, and I hate them. Every single one of them. They're all terrible.
Yeah, and I think a joke that I either came up with it or I heard it from someone else was be the Batman and Grand Theft Carriage.
Oh.
To describe the grappling hook and carriages.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what it is.
Well, yeah. I don't know what else we can talk about with Assassin's Creed. Or Ubisoft in general, because all their games are kind of terrible. Oh, right, I started talking about Watch Dogs, and then I transitioned off of it. Because I was going to say that The Division is essentially the same game as Watch Dogs, except you don't get to hack anything, and there's less plot, and it's an MMO. So, the things that are different make it more tedious. The things that are the same make it the same as every other game. And that is a short explanation of why I hate The Division. Which I'm sure we'll get lots of mileage out of, because I really, 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 really hate The Division. Oh man, I just looked at the waveform for that. I'm sorry.
I mean, do you hate The Division as much as you hate the Box of Disappointment?
Okay, so I need to do a correction from a few episodes ago. No Man's Sky has gotten enough updates that it's actually playable now, and I kinda had fun this time. Although, to be fair, the things that I had fun doing were incredibly tedious, and I can understand why normal people would hate them. Like, literally, I just got lost on a planet and dug up some metals. The most exciting part was an acid storm started, and I had to dig myself a cave.
Yeah, I think I came back into the room at that point. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's my cave.
Would Saints Row fall under this?
Well, now that you mention it, yeah, let's talk about Saints Row. Saints Row is an interesting example here, because they have a bad habit of reusing their sandbox, which is so terrible. You don't do that. You're supposed to make new assets so that people don't get bored. And sure, they added aliens, but at that point you're just jumping the shark so that people don't notice that you're reusing the same map. 3 games in a row, right? Because Get Out of Hell used the same map, didn't it?
Get Out of Hell...
or did it? I don't know.
They called it Hell, but I think it was similar to Steelport.
So yes, it's the same sandbox, just with variations. I'm sure you can't hear my air quotes. I tried to get them very close to the mic so that you could hear them. I will be very impressed if you can. I'll find out while I'm editing.
I mean, I'm trying to think of it, because it's been a while since I've played Get Out of Hell.
I don't know. I seem to remember the reviewer who I like to watch saying that they used the same sandbox 3 games in a row. I'm not going to use that as my primary source, which is why I'm not saying this is definitely a thing that happened. I'm saying this is what I've heard without having played Get Out of Hell yet. Although, we can go and verify, and there will be an apology in editing if I'm wrong. Right. Next thing. The good examples, yes. There are 2 of them that I can think of. And I would be very happy to hear if you have another one. But we have From Software and Scott Cawthon, who both, over the course of just a few years, created lots of games. And, of course, they do this by reusing assets. But they created enough new assets each time that people didn't necessarily get annoyed with it. So, for example, there's an entire area where I'm currently stuck in Dark Souls 3 that's just a part of an area in Dark Souls 1. For all you Dark Souls aficionados, that would be Anne Orlando. And, by the way, yes, I am glad there aren't Anne Orlando archers in DS3. Moving on to our other good example of developer saturation, we have Scott Cawthon, who made... Okay.
Who made the game that neither of us will play for any extended
amount of time. I just want to talk first, though, because I'm still a very big fan of Jim Sterling, and I'm actually really impressed that Jim Sterling had a pretty impressive impact in creating Five Nights at Freddy's. So for those of you who are not familiar with this story, and I'm just telling what I know of it, but Jim Sterling does a series in which he makes fun of terrible Greenlight trailers. And Scott Cawthon had a game out at that time called Chipper & Sons Lumber Company. And Jim Sterling said, "Those animatronics are terrifying." And so Scott reacted by saying, "Huh, they think this is scary. Oh, just wait." And that's how Five Nights at Freddy's was born. And then over the course of, I think, not even 2 years, he produced... Hold on. Was it...
5, I think?
Hold on. 4 consecutive games, then an RPG, then a book, then a 5th game.
Yeah.
I think I'm not missing anything there.
No, you're not. You are not missing anything at all.
Right. And that's absolutely insane.
When you said that's how FNAF was created, I'm just imagining a kid walking up to their parents saying, Daddy, how was FNAF made?
Well, son, I'll tell you. This is a story all about how my life got flipped turned upside down.
Get out of here.
So, let's talk quickly about what makes Dark Souls and FNAF good examples of developer saturation, and what makes things like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and all that jazz bad examples of it. And I want to hear what you think from what we've already said. So, you go ahead. I'm going to drink some tea.
Well, I mean, for FNAF and Dark Souls, being that I've only played one of them, watched a few, YouTubers do the other ones, and then never really played Dark Souls, but I've seen you do it, and it makes me go, nope, right out the door. Basically, for FNAF, it's a good representation because, like you said, Scott did bring in some good assets. Like, yes, the first one you do have the doors and the lights and all that, and it's just the claustrophobic atmosphere.
And how do you even science? Because obviously you need work to counteract gravity. That's not how you science, Scott!
And then the second one, I've seen people play it, and yes, it's a bigger room, and there's more things to look out for on the camera, but just the fact that there's no doors, and the mask, and all that great fun stuff. Can I please just...
Yeah.
I mean...
So, basically what you're getting at here is no two FNAF games play the same way.
Basically, yes. Like, I tried to do FNAF 4 on iOS on a friend's device.
Oh, that's right, because they're all freaking
I
apps.
nearly dropped his device. I swear.
4 is...
Nightmares.
Yeah, the nightmares. I'm never sure which one is 3 and which one's 4.
3 is Springtrap.
Also, my voice keeps cracking, and I keep hearing it, and it's making me mad, which is why we're drawing to a conclusion. Final thoughts.
I don't really have any final thoughts. Unless you're trying to say, like, good and bad, then, like you've said.
Let me phrase it this way. From now on, our final thoughts is going to consist of us recommending an alternative to games that we've talked about in the episode. What's your alternative?
Oh, jeez.
Preferably, like, one of the types of games we've discussed, but not a
specific one.
Yeah. And of course, I'm also just now thinking of one for this, so...
If you're looking for anything to substitute for, like, Assassin's Creed, Dishonored.
Yes.
And Dishonored 2. That is a good one. Both of them are pretty good. I haven't played them all the way through, but I have played them. They are... Bless the Lord.
Yeah. As a game developer, I always have to recognize game, and Dishonored is fantastic. The balancing of... Well, I haven't played Dishonored 2, let that be known. But the balancing of magic and guns and weapons is very interesting. And I like that there are multiple approaches to every level, which, fun fact, in case you weren't aware of this, when they were beta testing, if people found another way through the level, they didn't discourage it, or the developers didn't discourage it. What they did was they made sure that it was a safe way to get through the level. And I just think that is fantastic.
I mean, from playing them, just the way that they have the, you can do it, peacefully, or you can just murder everyone through it, and me trying to, give myself a bit of a challenge, I try to go through without killing everyone.
It's Undertale in that way, actually.
Dishonored 2, on the other hand, is basically once you get to a certain point, you're like, oh god, what is this? But then again, that's probably depending on who you choose.
I take it escalates pretty quickly.
If you choose Emily, then yes.
Oh jeez. Okay.
But then again, her blink ability is pretty cool.
So for my recommendation, I'm going to go back to the well of fighting games, and I'm going to bring up the fighting game that I got it for Christmas because I've been looking at it for years, and I really wanted it. And then I proceeded to play it for, 3 days straight? That, of course, is Pokken Tournament.
Oh, yeah.
It's Tekken, but with Pokemon. And, of course, I'm not gonna lie here. I am a massive Nintendo fanboy. Like, we have a couple episodes in the lineup that are just nothing but Nintendo. And my favorite series of Nintendo's is Pokemon. And my favorite thing with Pokemon is when they have random spin-off games that still are good. I like Conquest, which is Nobunaga's Ambition mixed with Pokemon. And I like Pokken, which is Tekken mixed with Pokemon. And then, what was the other one? I don't know. So yes, Pokemon and its spin-offs are very interesting. Speaking of Pokemon, another shameless plug for my gaming channel, my main series right now, by which I mean literally the only thing I'm uploading because I don't have that much time, is a Pokemon random Nuzlocke of Pokemon Gold. If that sounds interesting to you, check it out. I'll put a link to my channel in the description. With that, I think we have successfully discussed video games and the like, and in particular, I think we have had a fruitful discussion of developer side.
Well, if it's fruitful, where's all the fruit?
At the store.